Radio.
Welcome to the Fair booth, making not only his KFAN at the Fair, but the Great Minnesota Get-Together debut. Alec Lewis of The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. He's a favorite of 9 to noon. Joined us last year, beginning at the Friday Football Feast. He is an emerging football mind who has some wonderful takes, and he has the quirky gene. So you put all those things together, and it feels like profitability to me. TheAthletic.com is where you can learn more about the entity for whom he writes. And they 2018, all right? Now, they tried to put a bad rap on the Alabama State Fair in 2018, citing animal cruelty. You as a Cub reporter at that time, down Alabama way, and good morning, John Lewis, as a Cub reporter at that time, did you pine to cover that case? And good morning.
Good morning. First of all, how do you read your notes? Your notes are illegible.
I had to start writing like this so people wouldn't steal my takes.
It's like a 4-year-old wrote that. I think I was a sophomore in college at the time, covering the Boone County State Fair in Columbia, Missouri.
Boone County, you said?
Boone County, yeah. I was in Sturgeon.
Okay.
I actually interned for the news section in Columbia. They sent me out there. I covered a goat show. I covered a rat race.
At the Boone County Fair?
A rat race?
I covered rat race at the Boone County State Fair.
Yeah.
I did
did you bet on it?
I did. No, I was covering it. I had to be an unbiased journalist.
Brilliant.
But it was an experience. I was an intern in news in Columbia, Missouri.
Subscribers take the bus.
Correct. But it was a good time. I learned a lot about talking to people.
Did you cover the demo derby?
I did demolition.
There's nothing better than county fairs than the demolition derby.
Yeah.
Whether it's school buses, it's dump trucks, it could be anything that they can find.
I remember it was like a Saturday night. I'm a sophomore in college. Like, all my friends are out in Columbia, Missouri at Mizzou, and I'm out, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm covering this event where cars are ramming into each other. On the dirt. Like, I don't even know what's going on." You could probably find the story that I wrote that night, but it was I had a great time at the Boone County State Fair, and it just brought back a lot of memories. I was walking in here seeing the roasted corn.
Yeah. So Alec, are you saying that you never have been to the Alabama State Fair?
I've never been to the Alabama State Fair.
Why?
Well, I don't know. I'm just not a state fair fanatic.
Okay.
You would like the alliteration on that.
And your parents, I mean, good parents, right?
Great parents.
Always looking
better
for
than good.
You, your brothers and or sisters that you either have or don't have.
Right.
Always looking for cool things to do. And like the Alabama State Fair seems like it would be unbelievably fun for children. Why were you...
Yeah,
were they worried you were going to be absconded?
No, my parents, like I said, were great. Maybe this is a blind spot of theirs that they didn't take us to Alabama State in Montgomery or wherever the hell the fair is. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we must have been busy on the farm or something.
Well, Nordo, you're a Minnesotan, and we're not, and Tatum's not, and I've learned now throughout the course of this state fair run.
Yeah.
Just the reverence and how different the Great Minnesota Get-Together is compared to fairs in other states.
It's crazy.
I haven't even brought it up, but like the state fair or fair in Southern California was in a place called Pomona, California, which was less than desirable. They actually ran a race meet, kind of like Canterbury Park, about that level too, at a place called Fairplex. Within the fair, they would have horse racing every day, so that was cool. But I didn't go crazy or go out of my way or set plans for the state fair. I mean, the way the fair is treated in this state compared to other states, it's unprecedented.
Well, it is, and I think part of it, too, is that years ago we started realizing how prominent our fair was. So now it's something that we have that is great. And so
great.
We've only built off of this. Now, I must go back to Boone County for a moment.
Yeah.
From
Missouri?
From 2016, July 20th, royalty crowned at Boone County Fair from the Columbia Daily Tribune.
Oh,
it's written.
You found the story?
It's written by Alec Lewis.
Yes.
There was conviction in the way Alyssa Johnson, 19, answered her final question at the Boone County Fair royalty competition.
Wow.
There's a picture of a gal being crowned.
I swear to God.
He covered Miss Boone County.
I covered the Boone County.
At age
whatever you call it.
At age like 19, how randy were you?
19, and I was giving it my all for the whoever was Miss.
Right.
Yeah, Boone County, and also I remember.
But Boone County Fair beat writers are not supposed to hit on contestants.
yeah. So
my man's like, ow.
So no, what I remember is they did the contest in this like building, and I remember there were like pigs that had been killed in the other building. They were like, yeah, come take it. I'm telling you, I'm from Alabama, but I am not.
Wow.
I wasn't a big fair guy, and it was one of the most unbelievable things, and I had to write about it, but I gave it my all.
And you set the scene later in the article.
Of course I did.
The competition began at 7 p.m. and ended nearly 2 hours later. Throughout, the smell of hams lined up on a table was in the air.
I'm telling you, there were like
well, hold on.
Hams hanging.
Listen to this prose.
Yes.
At age 19, are you kidding me? He hadn't even hit puberty, and he's already Wadsworth.
Again, he's writing words, and immediately the visuals. The Sturgeon Youth Center that housed the pageant, it's also the site of the ham competition. It's in the article.
Well, part of me, I was
You're
like,
so beautiful.
Well, part of me, I was like, I mean, they gave me 450 words to write about the, again, whatever royalty competition. I was like, I'm not going to not have fun with this. I'm 19. I would like to be at the bar drinking. But I was like, I'm going to give it my all.
I think this is great.
We might be too obsessed with Alec right now.
Because seriously. At some point, whether it's, and you broke some news on somebody was waived, I think, while you were on Como trying to park.
Yeah.
And you broke that news.
We text when we drive too.
Alon Ali,
maybe a practice squad, definitive practice
squad candidate. There's some stuff with Rager swirling. By the way.
So people will say, don't like the way that you cover this certain angle, don't like the way you do this. And for anybody that is an aspiring journalist out there, they need to know before you write for the New York Times / The Athletic, you have to cover the Miss Royalty pageant
no doubt.
at the Boone County Fair and understand how that ladder works.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, like, I remember I did the GOAT show that same time, and it was like, and I called my dad. And I remember
covered the GOAT show.
I covered the GOAT show. Yeah, it was a phenomenal.
Yep. Who won? Billy Goat Gruff.
I do remember writing you could probably pull it up, a feature on a kid who had been through some stuff, and it was like an inspiring tale. But I remember my dad calling me. He's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Dad, it's 9 p.m. on a Saturday night. I'm in Sturgeon, Missouri at the Demolition Derby." He's like, "That's awesome. Live it up." But yeah, like the dream then was to cover the NFL, and at that point, in Sturgeon on the dirt, it seemed pretty far away.
So I Googled Alec Lewis GOAT show, and I can't say what I have found. So we'll have to dig deeper for anything else in that regard.
This is Alec Lewis covering the Minnesota Vikings for profit for The Athletic and theathletic.com. Today is roster cutdown day, and we will discuss that and much more with the Scribe when 9 to noon continues on KFAN.
KFAN is broadcasting live at the 2023 Minnesota State Fair from Carousel Park, presented by Mesh, Besher, and Spence. We will be broadcasting live every day from August 24th to September 4th. Come buy your favorite fan merch and learn about your shot to be the Mesh, Besher, and Spence Rube of the Day and win a $200 Visa gift card from us. KFAN.com, keyword events for more information.
This may come as some surprise, but I can see through all of your lies, but still I miss you. He takes her love, but it doesn't feel like mine.
when I say obsession would be too much of a word, but like,
That's a strong one.
9 to noon thinks about you, and 9 to noon, just one has one. What's up, Michael? Has wonderment about you, probably more than you recognize. And here's the example. It was the other day. It was before the state fair, and it's 10 minutes before the radio show. Nordo asked me, "I wonder what Alec was like as a kid." I mean, there have been a lot of guests and a lot of a lot of produce, just whatever in the history of 9 to noon, 10 to 1, just for fun, AM 1130 KFAN. I've never had a producer ask me one time, I wonder what Adam Kaplan was like as a kid. I wonder what Courtney Cronin was like as a kid. I wonder what Russo Radio was like as a kid, rolling around the Long Island area, throwing newspapers from a bicycle.
Well, we know what Russo was like as a kid.
Right.
But he was delightful.
But Nordo found himself hearkening or in wonderment the other day, wondering.
Yeah.
I did frame it up perfectly, didn't I? I wonder what Alec was like as a kid.
Well, why?
He might have said child. I wonder what Alec was like as a child.
You can't help laughing.
Right.
I mean, the laughter, the innocence of all of that. When I see you, and you can't help but smile. And trust me, I've been working with him for 10 years, the human cartoon character, all of that. It's still difficult for me at times to not at least smirk when you just see the host being the host. But I'm just picturing, like, are you out catching fireflies, playing in the barn?
What's the thing called where you blow it?
You're blowing the dandelion.
Yeah.
SpongeBob.
Yeah.
You guys are making me out to be like
I guessed, and this is what I wrote down right after he asked that question last week. I wrote it down because I knew you would be here. I guessed you chased butterflies and used to smile at the stars, all the while trying not to get killed in the backwoods of Alabama. Is that a very fair way to look at it?
It's a very normal childhood. I wasn't like skipping out in the yard.
You didn't?
I played sports. I watched sports.
Did you play hopscotch?
I did not. No, I never played Foursquare. No.
Okay.
That's not my sport.
Were you an evil child?
Was I? No, I was a well-behaved kid.
Mm-hmm.
I was a well-behaved kid.
Would you describe yourself as happy-go-lucky?
Yeah.
Okay, let's stop. Okay, so you describe yourself as happy-go-lucky now. As a child, you were skipping around, blowing dandelions, chasing fireflies, staring at the stars, all the while hoping not to get killed.
I'm trying to think
or turned into some sex slave.
You say some stuff that just is unbelievable. I'll tell you, maybe the worst childhood moment was I was playing basketball on a trampoline, and I fell and broke my rib on the metal bar. But other than that,
your hops were so bad you had to play basketball.
No, I had better hops. No, I had better
trampoline.
Hops. No, I had better hops than you might think.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, really?
Unlike Nordo,
I'm more athletic
I
than I
don't
get
wonder
credit.
what you were like as a child. Nordo pines to know what your Alabama life was like, led by John Lewis, who's listening now. As a child.
Well, yeah, because I see him in Alabama. He's doing Boy Scouts. He's learning how to field dress a deer or something like that.
No.
You're in Maryland siphoning gas from a neighbor's car. So again, it's just I get intrigued by the differences in upbringings. And
tough times in '78. Old schoolers remember those gas lines back in the Carter era, and you had to siphon a little gas to get mom to work. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I kind of am, but
I don't know how you come up with this stuff.
I know that's true. Nordo knows that's true, that I was taught to siphon gas at 9 years of age.
Right.
So my mom...
one is.
So yes, I did pilfer gas from other cars at Private Hill Apartments, put it in my mom's car so she could get to her second job. I mean, it's very much a walked through 5 feet of snow, uphill, wind in the face to get to school.
Correct.
It wasn't exactly like that, but I've swallowed my fair share of gas. Gasoline.
We can tell.
Accidentally.
Oh, my God, we can tell.
All right.
Outside of RFK, identifying marks, pickpocketing, the whole. You do what you have to do to survive.
I can't say I was pilfering gas at 9 years old.
Like the neighbor's tractor.
Yeah, in the backyard with the bulldozer.
All right.
I mean, no. I lived in a very residential neighborhood.
Forget the tutelage with the siphoning of gas, which is a true story. I'll begin. Let's identify one thing about each of our childhoods that A, the other person doesn't know, and B, would be counterculture or just different from what a lot of people would know. Like, for instance, I'll start like this, is I had a beer can collection. So 77, 78, 79, now 79 I moved, so let's say 76, 77, 78, right when I got back from the Philippines where I lived for a year and a half. It's I'm 11, 12, and 13, or 10, 11, and 12. A lot of the hills, that immediately eliminates Minnesota, a lot of the hills throughout Maryland and Washington, adjacent to Washington, D.C., they had beer cans back in the woods that you had to dig a little bit to get, but they were like from 1960 in the 60s or the 50s. And so therefore you'd clean them off. You would go to beer can collectors conventions, which, yes, I went to, not with Paul Charchian, but I did go to that. And you would try to sell them or you would buy some. So I had a vast beer can collection at a very young age.
You've never told that on the air before?
No, it's boring, but I mean, it's different than like.
So how young were you and you're collecting beer cans?
Exactly what I said 45 seconds ago when you were just waiting to talk, 10, 11, and 12.
I don't have a story. I wasn't doing anything crazy, I don't think. I mean,
that's not crazy. It's just different.
Well, it is different. Mm-hmm. That's a better word. You're right. That's a better word. It's a good edit, right?
Anything, Nordo?
I was boring as hell, man. I mean, I was babysat by MTV. I guess counterculture to the way today, I had to walk as a first grader nearly 2 miles across major roadways to get to school.
Whoa.
When I was in first grade. So
you had to walk to school as a first grader?
Yeah, Mom was working at a place down in Mankato, and so I had a hell of a way to walk each and every day. I had a house key, so when I got home, again, 6, 7 years old, I was home by myself for 3-4 hours, checked out some dangerous caustic chemicals under the sink, found a mousetrap once, then did the wrong thing with it.
Wow.
So it's that's counterculture today.
Yeah.
You're not letting the 6 and 7 year olds cross a highway by themselves on the way to school.
In other words, Alec, there are a bevy of examples.
We're a little bitter and beaten up.
But you just choose not to share them because it's Alabama, man. It's an Alabama childhood.
No, I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know. I didn't grow up like in the woods, but I think that's often I went to get a haircut the other day, and the guy was like, "So, like, you grew up on a farm?" I'm like, "No, it's like a normal like white person's house." I mean, it was as
big porch, old yeller, sweet tea,
backyard, sweet tea, not like dog. I don't know. It was
we love him.
It was a normal.
Something has to happen here. We have to. I might cancel him from the feast.
Have you ever used a real outhouse before? Because at my father's house, St. Peter, Minnesota, there was no plumbing.
Yeah.
And I've actually, for several years, had to use a real outhouse. That is about the nastiest thing you could ever do in your life.
GM's calling Russo, and here I am talking
Bill
about
Barron's on the hotline.
Yeah, I'm talking about old Yeller.
The
Coise's on the phone.
Speaking of nasty things, you just triggered something off the beer can hunt, because by Private Hill Apartments in Oxondale, Maryland, Lucius Tisdale, Miles Spires, and myself, we would go looking for beer cans that we could clean and were from the 60s, and you could seriously sell them for $15, $20, $25. You then would go to 7-Eleven and you would get what was known as wacky packs and hard bubble gum in it, or baseball cards, hoping to get a Pete Rose. So that was then, this is now. But we went up some hill. We were quite, we were up there. And we just kept going through the woods looking for beer cans. And then all of a sudden there was an opening, and there were like 2 or 3 shacks where undoubtedly the people were cooking or doing some type of major drug-related situation.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I'm 12, and Miles and Lucius are 12, and all we heard was chick, and saw a shotgun saying,
Really?
"What are y'all doing up here? Looking for beer cans? Well, why don't you go look down the hill?" Okay, cool. Yeah, I peed my pants. I mean, it's
That's
at
a
age
fair response.
At age 57,
what was Lucius' response?
He wanted to fight them, but I said no. They got guns and we don't. So first time I think I peed my pants accidentally, or peed my pants from being scared of something.
That kind of seems like a cyclical thing in life, where it comes and then it goes for a long time, and then maybe it comes back.
I mean, somebody once said you begin life in diapers and you end life in diapers.
Somebody did once say that.
Well, somebody whomever also first said little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems.
Yeah, same person.
Cha-ching. Yeah. Same person who said the 2020 wide receiver draft is the greatest in the history of the NFL. I got reverence for them. But yeah, so I peed my pants out of fear when I heard a shotgun cock. Because we were in a bad place.
Right.
You know?
That was smart of you.
You guys think it's all white collar and easy being the announcer, don't you?
I wasn't. I didn't know the beer can.
No, I don't at all.
Yeah. Man, it's talking about siphoning gas at 9 years old.
I thought this was going to be like a Stand By Me moment where you told us the first time you saw a dead body or something.
No dead bodies. To the reality of it with YA, young Alec, at Alec_Lewis via Twitter. If you'd like to follow him in the Mesh, Besher, and Spence fan stands right now, that'd be super cool. A bunch of cuts yesterday, some more today. Ross Blacklock, I believe Sheldon Day cut. Vidarian Lowe was traded. So today by 3, we get to 53. The practice squad is set. I want to begin here. I wasn't surprised when that first run of cuts came out yesterday that running back Aaron Dykes was not on the list. I wasn't surprised. I'm curious to see what happens today. Because, I mean, with Kene Nwanwu, the injured bit with designation to return, I think that's an option. I think injured reserve, your season's done, probably is an option. And also practicing and returning is an option. And also just flat being cut. I mean, there are a lot of options here with Kene. I'm tired of thinking about Kene because there's just too much guessing that's being done. So I'm gonna take it to a place that is tangible, something that I've seen in practice, the games, and caught a feel for, and that's Aaron Dykes. In that he's better returning kicks than I think some others thought. And Ty Chandler and Madison and Hammer in the mix. I think they only keep one more. What do you think about Aaron Dykes?
Yeah, he's interesting, and I've said this story. I wrote this story, but Harrison Smith actually knows this guy, Aaron Dykes, really, really well, and they work out together at the same place in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's this like wood gym in the middle of the woods, and Harrison Smith has worked out there since he's in 8th grade. He loves the privacy of it. And last offseason, this Aaron Dykes kid came in there, and Harrison was pretty impressed by this kid. And then come to find out, he played at Richmond. He's an interesting guy. He didn't end up getting signed or drafted, obviously, and the Vikings kind of snagged him late. He walked in the locker room. Harrison Smith's like, "What the heck, dude? You're here." It was kind of a surprising thing, but he's looked really. I mean, he played in 2 preseason games. He just seemed very like rhythmic in terms of how he read some of the run plays that they have, and I think that was impressive for some of the coaches and probably surprised them in a way they didn't expect. Ultimately, do I think he makes the team? No. Could he make the practice squad? I think definitely. But I just,
who's the third back?
I think that's a great question, and I think we have to talk about Kene, who hasn't practiced in 3 weeks. 4th-round pick, obviously, that he wasn't picked by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, so I don't think they're really tied to him, and I think the fact he hasn't practiced puts him in a very interesting spot. I also know, as you do too, that they've brought in a bunch of older veteran running backs to work out, a guy like Kareem Hunt, a guy like Mike Davis, and I think that's an option ultimately.
Tariq Cohen's kind of on the media train right now. His name has been popping over the last week really hard.
There's him. There's Darrell Henderson, who I believe has experience with Kevin O'Connell. There's a bunch of guys, and I think, it's just the fact that Kene hasn't been able to prove anything in meaningful reps all training camp puts him in a pretty tough spot. So I think it's a very worthwhile conversation to be had in terms of who's going to be that number 3 back, because I think you're locked in with Alexander Madison as your guy that you're going to ride with. I think Ty Chandler has impressed all training camp, and I think they're going to utilize him more than maybe even they expected. But that third back and depth for those guys they need, and I don't think they have and can be confident with right now.
This is our marathon segment, this 9 to noon, courtesy of FVP Batteries and FVPparts.com. For marine, lawn and garden, and power sports batteries, you can get them at Menards.
So with Kene in particular, and are people like me, this is kind of twofold, are people like me who said with the fair catch thing, he's got the 3 kick return touchdowns over his first 2 years, but they're trying to neuter that play. They're trying to make that a non-explosive opportunity for either team in the kick return game. Am I overplaying that in terms of then mentally diminishing Kanae's value? Do you see where I'm going with that? Where it happens 20% of the time, all right, but still the opportunity to flip the field in one way or another. Kanae's shown the ability to do that. Am I overplaying new rules in terms of valuing Kanae?
I don't think you're overplaying it, but I do think that skill set matters. Like, I don't think the coaching staff is naive of the fact that that is.
Thank you, brother.
That's an important skill set that they have to have.
Ollie's Crab Fritters. Where are you located again? Cooper next to Gizmos. Cooper next to Gizmos. Crab fritters, absolutely terrific.
Unbelievable.
Continue. Here, I got some crab fritters for somebody who wants them.
I do think.
There you go, brother.
I do think that skill set matters. Man's tossing crab all over the place.
Jeez.
I think the skill
sounds like
skill
Russo
set
on
matters.
a Saturday night with Juanita outside of the Clevelander.
Holy cow.
Anyway.
But Kanae Wango, I think that kick return skill set matters, but ultimately I think they need a guy behind Alexander Madison who has proven it at times, and Ty Chandler who has not proven it in the regular season, to have another guy who is experienced both as a runner, as a pass catcher, and protection. I think they need, and I think with Kanae not being healthy and not proving it for weeks, I think it's going to be hard for them, even with that kick returning skill set, to trust him, really.
Are there ways that Daniels needs to get better with this special teams bunch? I think for the most part, the idea of stabilizing it, you get the explosion from a Kanae. There were moments last year you're making plays on special teams, muff punts, recovering fumbles and such. But are there ways in which this thing needs to improve if you're Daniels and company?
Yeah, consistency for sure. I mean, I know that's a base answer. I can't get into the special team scheme just because I'm not that much of an elite football mind. But I think I go back to, like, they played at Detroit late in the season, and I believe Detroit on like a 4th and 8 fake punt. It was a fake punt. The Vikings did not sort it through. It was a play that worked for Detroit. They ended up winning that game. And I thought over the beginning of the season, the special teams unit was pretty solid. And then as it progressed, it seemed like the consistency just wasn't there. I will also say this, and I think you'll hear about this over the course of the year, but Brian Flores kind of grew up through the Patriots in special teams. And he has an incredible knowledge of that side of the ball and had a big role in that side of the ball when he was a head coach in Miami. And I know he sat in rooms with Matt Daniels. I know they've met. They've talked about special teams. So I think for as much as Brian Flores, we're going to talk about the defense, I think he's going to have an impact on special teams that we'll probably hear a little more of as the season progresses.
What do you mean?
I just think his knowledge of that side of the ball, and I just said, but in New England, he spent a lot of time with special teams.
Yeah.
That's obviously Bill Belichick's specialty. And then in Miami, he utilized. I expect Brian Flores to impact. I know they've shared meeting rooms, or Matt Daniels has brought Brian Flores in. I think it's been vice versa. So I think that is part of the reason why you've heard Kevin O'Connell talk this training camp about the synergy among all three units, because I think a guy like Flores understands specifically special teams and what it takes on that side.
What do you mean? Alec Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com. I only got him once. I couldn't get him twice. And on the fan.
What are you talking about?
Gone with that, Norge.
Hey, we play the numbers game every single year. Does it feel like Flores gets more to work with the defense than the offense this year? How do you see that? Without getting too deep into names, which maybe we got enough time left in the hour. There are a couple that we might bring up, but trying to revamp that thing. When Zimmer was here, it was always 26 here, 24 there, etc. And just kind of given the talent and depth mix, how do you see that going with this bunch?
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense that Brian Flores would get some more. I mean, I think the defensive back room is just so very deep in the safety perspective, not at cornerback, but defensive back safeties. That's going to be a lot of numbers there. I think the defensive line is just such an interesting position group that you start to think about the numbers on each side, and I think that's where you lean Flores. But I also think this, and Kevin O'Connell has said this, but Brian Flores, one of the things that he can do defensively is utilize guys' versatility. So say a safety who can kind of play like a linebacker, or a defensive lineman who can kind of rove around, like a Marcus Davenport who plays on the edge, can also play on the interior. So as much as I think he will probably get more numbers, I think his ability to use guys' skill sets who can do multiple things is something that we're going to also probably be thinking about and talk. Like Marcus Davenport in training camp has spent a lot of time with the interior defensive linemen. So I expect him in some of these pass rush packages to be on the interior, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how he does utilize those skill sets.
What was the long play trading Vidarian Lowe to New England? And FIVA, Fairness and Vidarian Lowe Act, ain't nobody trying to make him sound like Orlando Pace or Walter Jones, but the general manager did draft him. He absolutely improved from last training camp to this training camp. I know they got a 6 for it, but what was the long play here, you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I think about it in that much, like put that much into it.
Yeah, there might not be a long play.
I think the 6th-round pick that they got was the Raiders' 6th-round pick from New England that they had acquired from the Raiders. So I think with the Raiders being as bad as some people expect them to be, it's almost kind of like a 5th-rounder. So that's like the classic Kwesi trying to maximize the value. And I think if you've watched Andrew Berry in Cleveland, they've utilized these 5th-round picks a lot, 6th-round picks to kind of plug holes on the margin. So I think that's probably the thought. I don't think there's any. I think probably Vidarian Lowe, they look at his ceiling, and it is what it is. He's kind of a backup guy.
Do you think Oli Udoh makes it?
I think he makes it. I think the second preseason game against the Titans will be seared into my memory for a long time.
Right. But, you didn't see that Cincinnati season opener 2 years ago.
I did not. I did not see that. I will prefer not to go back to the All-22 and watch that. But, I do think he makes it because they need a swing tackle.
Now, with your Twitter, your ex, at Alec_Lewis via Twitter, you still have that building the perfect quarterback piece pinned atop your Twitter. Mm-hmm. It's been 4 weeks to the day since it's been pinned. Every beat writer has to pin something. This would be your, except for Michael Russo.
Russo doesn't do it.
This would be your pin du jour. I mean, it must be an incredibly special piece.
I will be updating that pin in the next week.
You will be?
I will be, yeah.
Well, what's taking you the last month? And why even have a pin? Why does every beat writer have to have a freaking pin?
Russo said he doesn't pin. Why not?
Why should you?
Why not showcase your best work at the very top?
Because you let others showcase your best work.
Yes, but sometimes others aren't going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. And I'm proud of that story. I want people to read it. I think they'll learn a lot about it.
How many pieces have you written since then?
Thank you. Brilliant.
Probably like 20-something.
Box stagger, coffin, brilliant.
So none of those 20
I'm not as proud of.
Good.
No.
Oh,
we still got Alyssa Johnson in the Boone County Fair pinned to the thing. You've done a few things since then.
Intrepid Nordo hit on something pertinent. So if I'm a member of the Vikings, like I'm Ryan Grigson.
Right.
Oh, great, cool. So the feature you did on me wasn't pinnable?
No, I could have pinned.
Why? Am I not interesting enough?
No, I could have pinned.
I almost died twice.
No.
And I can't get a pin? Dane Mizutani would have had me pinned 3 weeks ago. Are you kidding me?
I was very proud of that story. Could have pinned it. I just didn't do it. You know, I know you think I think about this stuff a lot. I guess
you do. And we think about you a lot.
Well, I sincerely appreciate that.
Take the stance.
Gas siphoner.
Take the stance. Don't pin.
I will have what?
Take the stance. Don't pin. Be the beat writer that does not, or the writer that does not pin stories.
The reason Russo doesn't pin, he's so good that like he didn't. What does he have to prove at this? Michael Russo doesn't have to pin a story. I mean, this guy's been at the highest level for like 15 years or 18 years, whatever it is. He doesn't. I'm trying to prove that I will do the work.
Great.
So that's why.
After the first 7 days, you proved whatever you needed to prove. Well, now what about the next 21 days? I mean, are we still looking to prove that hard?
No, I'll say is not every story is created equal. Some story, you're getting a call, by the way. Some stories are you pour a lot of time in, you talk to a lot of people, you spend a lot of time. I sent you guys this outline I've got where I've got stuff highlighted. Yeah. It's about 50 pages of notes.
Andrew Berry is really, really proud that he gave you all that time to talk about Ryan Grigson. He can't even get a pin.
I don't think Andrew
the general manager of a National Football League team can't get a pin.
I don't think he cares very much.
That's Alec Lewis, who cares a lot. And we have another segment with YA, Young Alec, up to Russo Radio on the Wild and much more when KFAN returns to the State Fair. KFAN.
KFAN, the Fan.
Don't hit me too hard. Oh yeah. Give it to me.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Brad Shine Bryant text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
And why do you listen to him all day long?
Dave Aranda, the Baylor head coach.
Oh, it's Baylor. It's not a band. It's not music.
Yeah.
Oh, because when
I listen to music though.
Well, I know you do, but I just read the tweet after getting through the pin for a fourth consecutive week, and I thought Aranda was some form of band. And since there's a 9 to noon obsession with what you were like as a child, I just envisioned you skipping down the street, chasing butterflies, calling them Popeyes, and listening to Aranda. So that's a football coach.
Dave Aranda, the head football coach at Baylor.
Why could you listen to him all day long?
Because he's so good at explaining like the intricacies of football, he's so willing to do it.
I see.
But yeah, Aranda, the band. No, I was more of a growing up. I think I was a big Dave Matthews guy. Yep. Like Coldplay a fair amount. But yeah, no, Aranda, the singer, I'm not familiar with.
Okay, now I retweeted this or wrote about it earlier, and FIA, Fairness and Athletic Act. I did a retirement video for you. Oh, well, congratulations on your retirement. Round of applause for this young lady and her retirement. And Miss K taking time to make that sign for the announcer.
That's impressive.
Very, very nice. God bless you into retirement. So I don't need to say this. I will, but I don't need to. I have no financial stake in the Athletic at all. And in fact, I don't even know what I pay monthly these days, $3, $4 and change. But like I put on Twitter earlier, I love it. Absolutely love it. And when I was getting ready for these segments with Alec, I noticed that you can get the Athletic for $1 a month for 12 months. Honestly, that's a steal of a deal. Theathletic.com or Alec_Lewis via Twitter if you'd like to learn more. But if you were to get an opportunity, which you're going to get right now, with people in front of you and tens of thousands listening, to tell them outside of the local field, like some of the there are many who are KFAN devotees and they work with the station, like Johnny Athletic, Russo Radio, the techie Aaron Gleeman, you, and so on. So outside of the local field, which is elite, why, if you're hearing me right now say $1 a month for a year, I think I'm going to do it. Why nationally should I do it?
Yeah, I think because what we do best is like go really deep on probably the biggest stories that you want to read about. And I think sometimes those stories are what is in the news that day, and we try to hit those better than anybody else. And I think the other times we're coming up with stuff that look back at certain things or that preview certain things in a way that goes deeper than others. So I would say that. But I mean, yeah, I know you're saying the national stuff, but I mean, as the people listening to this, Michael Russo, Johnny K, Gleeman, and I think if you're not subscribing here locally for those guys, just in general, then you probably don't know everything about the teams that you could. Right. That's just what I'll say. That's the benefit. That's part of the reason I moved up here, and Russo knows this, who's standing right here, is because I have reverence for what these guys have done for a long, long time at this place, and it's at a level from these guys that it does not happen elsewhere.
Right. I love it. And I put Mike Sando's name in my tweet earlier. It's from a football standpoint. It's good. A lot of good things to find. The deep stretch of baseball with the national writers and these team beat writers, I really enjoy. And also football year round with what you guys do. So it's $1 a month for a year, and you can learn more at theathletic.com.
Anything between now and 3 o'clock where you're like this guy, that guy with the Vikings, where you're waiting for that name, not like you're rooting for guys to lose their jobs today. That's not the point. But the idea of getting down to 53, that you're like, I'd either be really shocked or you're just anticipating that moment with one or two of these guys on the purple with cutdown day.
Yeah, I'll start with Jalen Reagor. I just put this out first reported by Ian Rappaport.
What happened?
But Reagor, the Vikings have received calls on Jalen, and I know they obviously traded for him last year. Traded, I believe, a 5th-round pick and a 7th-round pick for him to the Eagles. And so I'm interested to see what happens there. It sounds like conversations are kind of ongoing. He's owed $2.4 million, so that how they sort through that would be interesting. I think part of the reason that the calls might exist is because Brandon Powell, who they brought in, is going to make the team for sure. But the other names I'm curious about, Kene Nwangwu, I mean, we talked about that running back spot.
Yep.
I think I'm really interested to see if they keep Jaron Hall as a third string on the active roster, or they try to get him to the practice squad. And then defensively, I mean, who are the edge rushers? Are they taking Andre Carter? Are they who is Asezio Tomowo going to be on? So I think those are questions that Najee Thompson, the cornerback, was an ace gunner who got hurt kind of toward the end. Is he going to make the team? I know people inside the building are pushing for him, so we'll see what happens. But those are some of the names I'm thinking about.
Whether it was PA last segment talking about Vidarian Lowe, the idea for me, my kind of theme with Kwesi for the last few months has been I want to see him get a win in the draft. And that's not necessarily just for Kwesi as an individual. It's for me as a Vikings fan.
Yeah.
And just how this team looks. And where a Vidarian Lowe, not that he would be considered a win given the lack of opportunity, and he wasn't usurping anybody on the offensive line. But Asezio Tomowa, I'm still kind of struck by him just because you don't see Ross Blacklock in the mix now. Sheldon Day's gone. And then you start kind of doing math. We did it last week at the facility. Yeah. 5 fat guys in the middle, 6 fat guys in the middle. What's the number look like in terms of Flores' defense? And I'm still kind of grasping at straws the way they were able to find trade value for Vidarian. I'm still trying to see how Asezi fits.
Yeah, and I think, they've talked so much about wanting to develop players. Like, that has been a big thing for Kwesi and Kevin. Like, how are we going to be different than what other teams around the league do? Well, we're going to develop players. Asezio Tomowo went to Minnesota. He was drafted in the 5th round. He was an athletic guy that you could curate and chisel down. I mean,
he looks the part.
Right, he definitely does. But to this, from what we've seen in training camp, he hasn't looked that much better. So I think just seeing what as PA would say, what his lot in life looks like by the end of the day, I think it's going to be really interesting, and how that jives with the safety room when you have a Jay Ward who they're really excited about, when you have a Theo Jackson who's had one of the best training camps. I think how those numbers play out, we're going to be talking about and thinking about, and I'm interested in.
Yeah, you mentioned Jay. You get the 4th round draft pick equity in there. Again, not to fall in love with draft picks, but it makes it very hard to let him go despite the depth of a safety room where then you're playing the game on the cornerback spot. I always kind of lump the secondary in all together. Usually 4, maybe 5 safeties might turn out that way, but you're looking at a Najee Thompson who's trying to be the best special teamer in the history of the NFL, with the exception of maybe Matthew Slater, but then Jay Ward, who got splashy against the Cardinals. But other than that, very kind of a ho-hum preseason for him.
Yeah, I would actually, I asked Kevin O'Connell about him after the game against the Cardinals, and Kevin pretty much raved about his progression throughout camp, that being Jay Ward. And I'll tell you, I don't know, I don't want to get myself into trouble here, but Jay Ward, I think what he's shown, I'm almost as intrigued enough with what he's shown than I have been with Lewis Seen. And I know Lewis has been through the injuries, and again, I know this is probably, I can't imagine the reaction, but I'm really intrigued by Jay Ward. I think right when he was drafted, I got a text from someone at LSU who does a lot with those guys, and he was like, this guy's processing ability is really, really up there. And so I'm pretty fascinated with Jay Ward. He'll be on the team for sure.
Is he pinnable if you do a piece?
At some point, if there's a story big enough. I will have a pinnable story, I think, on Thursday of this week. And then I should have another one on next week. So I might get 2 pins in a week. I know you would be happy with that, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, because it just gives me an opportunity to find somebody new to mute. I'm just kidding. Alec Lewis, The Athletic, ladies and gentlemen. Love having him on the radio show. Awesome work covering the Minnesota Vikings at Alec_Lewis via Twitter. Or theathletic.com if you would like to learn more and take advantage of that steal of a deal. See you, brother.
Thank you.
When 9 to noon continues into the final hour, a Russo Radio on the Minnesota Wild and much more. With Nordo, I'm Paul Allen. We're at the State Fair at Carousel Park, and we're all bundled together on KFAN.